So I know we both did not attend COP28, but so can you tell me all the major things you've heard or read about COP28?
Okay, sounds like an exam, but let's
Yeah, it
go.
is. Mm-hmm.
Major highlights from COP28. There was the conclusion of the first ever global stocktake. There was
Mm-hmm.
an agreement signaling the beginning of the end for the fossil era. New funding arrangements for addressing loss and damage were made.
Okay.
Targets were set for the global goal on adaptation and its framework.
Mm-hmm.
There was recognition and momentum for linking climate action
Mm-hmm.
with nature conservation. And also, a platform was provided by the Global Climate Action at COP28 to ramp up practical climate solution.
Okay, so what does this all mean?
Well, that's what we're going to find out in today's episode. Welcome to the Sustainability Nugget podcast. I am Rarasu Maraibi.
And I'm Tosin Falaran Show.
On this podcast, we learn about sustainability by discussing various related topics while focusing on three pillars: the economy, the society, and the environment. Welcome back to the Sustainability Nuggets podcast. Did you miss
A
us?
new
Yeah, I know this is February and we're saying Happy New Year, but
This
it's
is
New
our
Year
first
on the
episode.
Sustainability Nuggets podcast.
Yes.
We left since November, I think. Was it November, December? Yeah. So
Yeah,
we're
it was
back.
November actually.
Happy 2024.
Yeah, it's good to see.
Yeah, it
Well,
was November.
it's good to see everyone. How good to be here.
It's good for everyone to see us back. This video is going to be about really reviewing COP28, just like not reviewing per se, but like trying to learn about the highlights from COP28. We were not there, like neither me nor Tessie was there. But yeah, usually a big event like that makes the news globally, and like that's the major event for like the climate change movement. So it'd be nice for us to learn about it on the Sustainability Nugget podcast. So
Yes.
to start off, what is COP?
So COP actually stands for Conference of Parties. And before we talk about the event, so COP itself is actually a body of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. And so for sure, that's they refer to it as UNFCCC. And that's actually the global governing framework under the United Nations for climate change. So the Conference of Parties is made up of member states that come together to make agreements and negotiations on climate change. So the word parties actually refers to like all the member states or nations that are involved in the process. There are currently 198 countries in the Conference of Parties. We went into force in 1994, and the first Conference of Parties took place in Berlin in 1995, which is interesting. That was when I was born. So they've been
Oh,
having these
nice.
negotiations for 28 years.
Wow. Okay. And where has it gotten? Like, what has been like some major things from it, like as a
Yes,
whole?
so so the one of the major things, for example, is the signing of the Kyoto Protocol, which was in 1997. That was the third conference, and that was actually the first treaty that was signed to reduce greenhouse gas emissions.
Okay.
Then subsequently, like other years until I think 2012, 2014, they kept sort of solidifying goals or targets under the Kyoto Protocol, but it
Okay.
wasn't really like most activists were really concerned that they weren't moving fast enough. Like countries were not agreeing fast enough to make meaningful change to stop climate change. Then in 2015 was another major one, which was when the Paris Agreement was signed. And if you heard about Paris Agreements, like the US pulling out of Paris
Mm-hmm.
Agreement and coming back in, yeah. So the Paris Agreement was monumental because that was when all member states actually came together and agreed on setting a goal to reduce or to stop the warming of global temperatures to at 1.5 degrees Celsius. So that was when like that 1.5 degrees Celsius goal was actually agreed upon by all member states, so all parties in the Conference of Parties. Um, it was also during that time that the Sustainable Development Goals, because most developing countries were concerned that so you're asking us to like make all these changes and like not cut down a forest and not develop when we we need to catch up sort of with like
Mm-hmm.
what with in terms of development. And so sustainable development goals were also signed around that period as well. But yeah, those are like the two. Those are some. I mean, there's always been
Major,
some form of treaty
yeah,
or agreements that is reached every year. But those two ones I mentioned that really like they're the major milestones that were achieved during a conference of party. And then this 2028 one also looks like it's also going to go down into history as one of the most
issue,
yeah. So I got how much
yeah.
to
So before sustainable development goals, like SDGs, there was like
yes.
something else. There was a
Millennium
millennium.
development goals, yes.
Oh, okay. Was
Yes.
it not like the same thing? They just changed the name.
Yeah, so from my understanding, I think it was like Millennium Development Goals did not first that those goals weren't achieved, and so that's why it became. And also at this point, apart from just developing, we are also developing with climate change in mind. So that's where
In
the
mind, yeah.
sustainable
Oh, okay.
development goals
Okay.
came from.
Okay. So yeah, COP28 happened in Dubai, right?
Yeah.
Started end of November, like towards end of November,
Hmm.
ended beginning of December. So let's talk about major highlights that we got from the news. Um, One major thing I saw was the fact that this COP28 was the first time where there was the conclusion of a stock take. Like, so they came about this stock or a concept known as a stock take, which is like an inventory to see where we are at, right? Towards our goals. So, like you said, in the Paris Agreement in 2015, goals were set that
Hmm.
we need to limit the rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius, and it should not, no matter what, it should not pass 2 degrees
Two
Celsius
degrees,
unless there
yes.
will be no turning point. But that's
Hmm.
just been a goal. What, how are we like doing in achieving those goals? It really has not,
Yeah.
it has just been everybody just saying different things, right? But
Hmm.
now the stock take will actually help to collect inventories, like what has been done like globally across these member countries
Yeah.
to actually move forward in that direction. So this was the very first time that was being um, taken, and that's very awesome. And that was like the major like achievement of this COP28, and every other thing surrounds it, because like it was in this stock take that all of like the other achievements were being like mentioned, or like you get,
Hmm.
because like in this inventory it was
Yeah.
being collected. And there was something else they talked about like related to stock take, which is, I think it's nationally determined contributions,
Contributions, yeah.
right? And so that's basically, like I said, the stock take is like the inventory, right? And that's the nationally determined contributions is like really what have you done? What's the like roadmap? What like have you set policies? Have you implemented energy efficiency? Things like
Mhm.
that. So that's what I understand it to be.
So the nationally determined contributions is actually it
Mm-hmm.
was part of the agreement that was under the Paris Agreement. Like that was
Mm-hmm.
part of it's like a plan for what each country has planned or how they plan to cut emissions and adapt to climate impacts.
Okay. So that's the same thing, like a roadmap, like I said,
Mm-hmm.
like the
Yeah.
roadmap how they're getting there. So yeah, basically. So like I said, that's the center of everything. And so like we have like some major highlights that we've seen and would like to discuss. So
Mm-hmm.
apart from the stock take, which is the central, one other major thing was the agreement that signaled the beginning of the end of the fossil era. So in all of these goals that have been happening, they've really not had like the fossil fuel language in their agreement, and this
Yeah.
was the first time that that was entering, and that was like a very big deal. The fact
Mm-hmm.
that they agreed to actually put in this language
Yeah.
in the agreement. Yeah, we'll talk about our reactions, but like it's a big deal because like since
Mm-hmm.
they've not put it. So what
Yeah.
exactly are they talking about fossil fuel, and why is it like why is it called the beginning of the end of the fossil era?
Yeah.
Um, some things that were said like in the stock take was the fact that they had to triple renewable energy capacity and double energy efficiency improvements by 2030. There's also like the language of like they have to face down unabated coal power. So face down, not
Okay.
face out.
Okay.
But so like
Okay.
reducing unabated coal power. So that
Mm-hmm.
was part of like the agreement.
Yeah.
And one last thing relating to like the fossil fuel is the fact that they have to phase out inefficient fossil fuel subsidies. The use of fossil fuel and make it cheaper, like actually you have to phase it out. And that's awesome. Face
Mm-hmm.
out, not face down. So I'm glad about that. So
Okay.
yeah, Tosin, what do you have for us?
So another thing that was agreed upon during the COP28 was that there was a new funding for loss and damage. So the loss and damage fund was actually established in the past COP event, which is COP27. That was when countries came together and agreed that there needs to be substantial funding for developing nations and vulnerable countries and communities that are already experiencing the adverse impacts of climate change. So this time they actually now have, I think, over 600 million US that has been contributed by different nations in global
Mm-hmm.
solidarity to help those nations. They've also agreed upon ways to enhance resilience. So there's
Okay.
and that's under the global goal on adaptation. So as I mentioned earlier, some countries are already, in fact, not all, I believe that all countries are now facing the impact of climate change, but some more than
Mm-hmm.
the others. For example, small island nations, like nations that are basically islands, they have been they've started experiencing like their countries being submerged due to floods and rising sea levels.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important that there's enough funding and enough goals and efforts to actually help such places adapt to the current changes in climate that we are seeing. Like we've talked about heat wave, there's excessive flooding, just there's extreme weather conditions happening everywhere, and more natural disasters occurring too. So under this, they established the Green Climate Fund. So that has
Okay.
actually been established in past, but now the Green Climate Fund received a pledge of more funding at COP28. So more nations pledged to actually help put in more funds, so that different communities and nations can help build resilience towards climate change. Um, and then there's also more efforts to link climate action and nature conservation. So as all of this is happening, it's one of the ways to actually reduce. In terms of nature conservation, it is important that we prevent biodiversity loss, which is sadly already happening, still happening. Implementing other nature-based solutions. So governments. So in 2025, sorry, governments were actually called on as part of their nationally determined contributions. Each government were um, called on to consider ecosystems, biodiversity, and like carbon storage in forests as part of their climate action plans. Um, and so there's been more emphasis about nations in the global stock take. It was seen that most we're not even near that goal yet. So that's one of the things
Mm-hmm.
that for me, the global stock take was kind of disappointing because it's good that it actually happened, but it also pointed out the fact that we are nowhere near. reaching the 1.5 degree goal by
Did you
2025.
did you know like the because I know they did the global stock, but like what was the verdict of like how close are we to like meeting that goal? Was there like a percentage number somewhere or no?
I
I didn't find
Yeah,
that.
I don't think so. I don't think it was
Oh,
actually
okay.
expressly stated like this is how many degrees we're at now.
Mm,
And by the way, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change is the one they release a report every year assessing climate change, and usually
yeah,
you'd get reports, like you'd get more information about
yeah.
where we are heading
So
towards.
I know like there's still I saw the number 43% reduction like JJ greenhouse gas emission reduction still needs to be achieved like over like the
To
2019
achieve
levels to reach that goal
to
of 1.5.
keep
But
temperatures below
like in that
1.5 degrees, right?
43%, I'm like, did this, yes. So I'm like, in
Okay.
that 43% over 2019 levels, how many percent have we achieved? Like, I don't know, I didn't see that number, but anyone listening, if you know, please let us know because that's part of
Yeah,
like I feel like that should be like a major thing. Or maybe it's still maybe the 43% is like we still need like we need to reduce 43% from now. Maybe
yeah,
that's what it means, which is a lot.
yeah. I that's what it means, and that's why it's pointing out the fact that we have like
Mm-hmm.
we're going at this pace.
Because we're in 2024, it's
Yeah,
6 years to 2030. Because
2060
all
is
of the goals is 2030. Like I'm like 2030 is here already.
thing is here already, so it's like we're not there yet.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, we need more nations to reduce their emissions from their operations, from energy use and transportation and all of that. But um, also just ensuring that there's more that biodiversity is preserved, ecosystems are restored wherever possible, and that we reduce deforestation, we reduce harvesting of forest. That's also important in actually keeping the carbon, ensuring that we're not releasing more carbon into the atmosphere. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So what other thing? I
So
think you have.
the last highlight was really the ramping up of practical climate solutions. So I think they are all intertwined, right?
Yeah.
So in this, what they were talking about was that like the global climate action space actually created a platform for government, businesses, and
Hmm.
civil society to be able to come together, collaborate, and showcase their practical climate solutions.
Hmm.
So in this space or under this place of actually pushing more practical solutions. There's a team known as the high level champions. I think they were put together. I don't know what year, but like it was really under the global climate action, I think in relation to Marrakesh partnership, right? So they are like initially they were just two champions, but like they created a whole team. So right now there's a team
Hmm.
called the High Level Champions, and they launched their implementation roadmap of 2030 climate solutions. So like they actually have like a roadmap showcasing practical solutions that should be adapted in order to push the goal forward or like the process of meeting the goal. And
Okay.
so, like I said, this platform was created. And so, under this, 125 countries signed onto the UAE Climate and Health Declaration.
Okay.
So that's like it was a declaration really showing like how climate also affects health, like
Mm,
acknowledging it, right? And so
mm,
125 countries actually signed onto it. It's called the UAE Climate and Health Declaration because it was held in UAE, right?
okay.
But like they didn't just sign. Finance providers actually mobilized an initial tranche of 1 billion USD to
Mm,
actually fund climate and health solutions. I think that's
okay.
awesome as long as it's
Yeah.
dispersed or like as long as it's given to
Effectively.
the right people with the right
Yeah.
solutions, right? Another thing was the EU. The EU and like its member states, they announced a 175 million euro in support of methane finance
Mm,
sprint to boost methane reduction because that's like one
okay.
major area. is actually reducing methane emissions. So it's
So
good
as part
that
of the
we're
array of climate solutions, right?
yes, the IRA. Yeah, I think I was thinking of the word portfolio.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So yeah, it's good that the EU is actually providing funds because funds like is the number one thing, right? Even if you have the
Mm,
solution, if there's no funds, nothing
yeah.
go forward.
Yeah.
So they're providing about 125 million euro
That's
to
good.
fund methane reduction solutions. So yeah, those were the major highlights from this from this COP28.
Mm,
And of course, in COP28, they announced when where the next one will be and what to look
yes.
forward to.
Yes.
Would you like to say something about that?
Yeah. Before I say that, I just wanted to point out that so the EU actually
Mm-hmm,
so the members of the EU, like all the countries in the EU,
mm-hmm.
are members, and then the EU itself is also a member. So it's like you have whatever number of countries within the EU, and then the EU also has voting power. So I
Plus
found that
EU.
interesting.
Oh,
Yes.
okay, that's good.
Um. Yeah. So I
So wait,
guess
in all of this, United States is not part of all these things that we're saying, or no, they just went away from Paris. Wait, but if they're out of Paris
no,
agreement,
they're
that means they're
backing.
not
So
doing.
no, no,
Oh, they're
no,
back in when
no.
Biden came. Oh, okay.
Yes. So when that was the first thing Biden did, then
Oh,
when
okay.
he but looking ahead, so COP29 is happening in Azerbaijan. Um, and I think it's going to be from the 11th to 22nd of November. And they had also announced that COP30 will be hosted by Brazil in 2025. Um,
Mm-hmm,
the so just there's been a lot of buzz online
mm-hmm.
about opinions about COP29 in Azerbaijan. But before we come back to that, we want to just read some online reactions that we have seen
Is it for COP
about
28,
COP29.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you find
So
anyone
one,
interesting?
yeah. One that that like really got my attention was I saw it from Catherine A. but she got
Okay.
it from actually the International Energy Agency.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
is
I
the
read that
fact
one too.
that yeah, the terms of the agreement, like all this that were said, stock take, end of fossil era, like everything, if they actually do it, because there's the one of them not doing. If they do it, it's only provide about 30% of what's needed to actually meet the 1.5
Yeah.
degrees Celsius.
Mhm.
So like 30, not even 50%,
Not even half, also
30%. So
half.
we're
So
still lacking
so can we then
70%.
conclude that it's sort of is sure
That
that
one.
by 2030 we are going beyond 1.5. Like it's not funny, I'm smiling, but actually
Ah,
it
yeah,
sounds
but like again, it's quite tricky to just say that because yes, that's what it looks like we're doing, but we should not give up hope because there's this thing of some people when they feel like there's no need, they'll just there's no need,
no one
let
would do that
everybody
too.
die or something. Well, let's keep
Mhm,
pushing, but we
mhm,
really need to do better because yeah, just 30% of like the roadmap is actually how I understand is that like when they even put together like the roadmap, all of the implementations that would happen, it's actually just meeting 30%.
mhm,
So I think they should do better. That's the
mhm,
people that actually do all of this roadmap, all of this. They should put in those like ambitious goal because it's looking like it's not ambitious. Like, okay,
mhm,
so the
mhm,
goal is ambitious, but like the roadmap there, the objectives are not ambitious enough to meet those goals.
mhm.
So because it's one thing to put down your roadmap, to put down like the things you need like to know that you need to implement and then not meeting, that's one thing. But even not putting it at all
Mhm.
or bringing it forward at all, then like we're already defeated. So I like that the global stock take has started to see where we are, but I'm looking forward that like in COP29, they get like information from experts and all, or like bring in more experts that can do this stuff to actually put in those really like let's not lie to ourselves. Let's show ourselves that if we do even if we do all this, we won't get there. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. Like we
Yeah.
need to actually talk about all of the solutions that we can
Mm,
implement rather
yeah.
than just taking some. Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
one major thing that stood out to me. What about you?
Um, I was on LinkedIn a lot while COP28 was happening, just following what people's conversations, and I found this very interesting from a Nigerian, actually, it's a friend that attended. Um, I'll read a part of what is post on LinkedIn. So he said, "Yes, I have a great interest in loss and damage. That's the loss and damage fund, and the supposed expected funds." And then in parentheses, he said, "We know that the funds can't repair or replace what most of us here have lost, especially in
Mm-hmm.
human and ecological life." And I just found that very striking because I was like, at this point, like it took us this long for us to even decide on funding for people
Mm-hmm.
that, are losing from, like, losing life. Like there's lots of lives, losing their lives, losing their livelihoods from climate change. And it's like, yes, truly, like what is lost cannot be replaced. And we are so slow at preventing further loss. So it's more like, oh, well, the loss is inevitable to happen, but here's money to help
Hmm.
with your
So, but
situation.
what do
It's
you now
kind of
suggest
tricky.
is the best way forward? Like, because like you said, it cannot be brought back, but like what do you think, apart from the fund, what else do you think should be done?
Um, this is a controversial conversation,
Mm,
but there's
yeah.
been conversation about climate migration. I don't know if you've heard about it, where it's
No.
as more
I
climate
know that
disasters
for
occur.
birds, I think.
So this is for humans, like people that will be
Okay.
displaced
Oh,
by,
like refugees and all.
yes, climate
Okay.
refugees. Yes, that's actually the better word, climate refugees. So for people that will be displaced um by natural disasters, climate disasters
Mm-hmm.
happening, which country is willing to take them? If, like,
Mm.
I'd read, I think it was part of the Catherine Ayo's post where someone had just said, like, if there's already so much um so much blockage against, or yeah, there's so much outcry against, like, asylum and just immigrants coming into Western countries at this point. Like, when this climate disasters even get bigger or worse, like, that's that might be a precedent for, more crises in
Mm-hmm.
terms of international crisis or interboundary crisis. So, yeah, for me, I don't have like an answer to what should be done, because this
Done. Yeah.
this yeah, this transcends across different countries. So
Mm-hmm.
it's I know it's a very complex issue, as I said,
Yeah,
but
it
it's like
is.
we know what the problem is, and we are at this point, should we be facing down or facing out?
Just facing out
Yeah.
actually. Face like so. Yeah, that would be like one of my reaction. Like, I don't know why. Like, so in that the beginning of the end of fossil era, they still had to say face down unabated coal power. Like, focus on this. On they didn't even say face down coal power. Face down unabated coal power. Unabated was like, let me see if I can search what unabated is.
Yeah.
So like
And
they're so scared of calling, like actually saying they'll face out coal, which I
mhm,
think is like, wow, coal is like the dirtiest. Like, why is it still, why are they
why are we still
still,
negotiating about this? Like, why
yes,
are we
like,
still, yeah, yeah,
and you're not even facing down the
not
unabated,
even this.
not facing out. So unabated fossil fuel refers to the use of coal, oil
Mhm.
and gas without substantial effort to reduce the emissions produced through their life cycle.
Okay.
So, like, so do you understand what I'm saying? So they're saying that they want to face down, not face out, face
Mm.
down unabated coal power. So that means they will still be unabated coal power where they are not doing anything to even. So if I just think about it, maybe like making the process more efficient, maybe putting carbon capture, but like they're not even
Exactly.
meant to even be burning it in the first place. So like let me say
Yeah.
the worst. So the worst of the worst is coal power, but the
Yeah.
worst of the worst of the worst is not the unabated coal power.
So it's
But
like,
still,
let's leave out
they are not.
worse, worse.
Yes, but they are not
Yeah.
even facing out the worst of the worst. They are facing down. Like
So which brings another. So that can lead on to my next reaction, which is
Yeah.
if this is like the barest minimum, and if it took this long, so I said COP started in 1995. I'm 28 years old.
Mm-hmm.
If it took this long to get to agreeing to facing down,
Mm-hmm.
like how much longer?
Yeah. I don't know.
Maybe when I'm in my 50s, we'll start talking about
Maybe
facing down
maybe
others.
our children will
Oh,
be talking about it on podcast that time or whatever. But yeah, like that's actually disappointing.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
that they're actually saying that. And some other random reactions, not random, but like was legit reactions, was the fact that people are angry that like the like
Next.
leaders of the oil company are the ones
Mm,
like leading
yes.
it.
Yeah.
Um
So that actually I had mixed feelings about it too. When I heard it was in Dubai, I was like, oh, okay. And then yeah, it was the president of COP 28
mhm,
was actually a CEO of one of the major oil company in Dubai actually.
mhm,
So people did feel like, oh yes, this is the oil industry just hijacking conference of parties. We are done. But
yeah,
despite that, I think one credit I would give to the UAE was that for the first time, fossil fuel was actually like the
exactly.
word, the language actually, yeah, was mentioned, and was
So
kept in the agreement, even though
mhm,
they had changed language around facing
yeah.
out to facing down.
So that's what I will always say because like I think we had this conversation before. I will not be the one to just jump in and say, "Oh, why is somebody for the fossil fuel industry talking about climate change?" Because the fact that they're working in like an oil company or whatever doesn't mean like they don't also like they can be part of the solution. Do you get?
Mm-hmm,
And I really understand the feeling of hijacking, right? Yeah,
mm-hmm,
it's very possible to. But I also, because I'm an engineer, I also like look at these companies as energy companies too, like
mm-hmm,
um as having the knowledge also, right? So yes, I understand the sentiment, but I also would not support like just like having like a cult like following and say, oh, if you work there, don't come, you don't have the right to talk. So in this stuff of hijacking or no, Al Gore, yeah, Al Gore,
yeah,
actually before the conference, he actually talked about it that like they've collected the conference of parties and all, but he now made the statement that if they decide to phase out fossil fuel, then it will be a success. If
yeah.
not, it will be a failure. But they actually did put fossil fuel, so I guess it's
Well,
kind of
but
a success.
so
Yeah.
for
So
me, I'm very skeptical about it. I'm my reason. The reason for my skepticism is it still feels like, oh, let's just. Or let me say, I do. I hope it's not that. Let's give them what they want to hear. I mean, we just spent the past minute talking about unabated versus face
face
down.
exactly, yeah. So
Like,
the
oh
way
yeah, let's.
there's
Mm-hmm. Because this is language, right? So when it comes to the doing,
exactly. Hmm. But
that's
what I'm
when.
saying is that before when it was not in the oil company, they didn't even mention it at all. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
no,
like it's still yeah, like it's
that's why I
still
said I
like
give you a
the yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, so would you like to go to the next? I've never been, like I said, but honestly, I don't mind going because I want to be really involved. I know some other people are like, cup is not like they've just put cup down. They think nothing good can come from cup. But I really think like at the end of the day, even when we're researching and all, if these policies are not made, if these goals are not made,
Yeah, we
then
need the
nothing will go
policy.
forward, right?
The
So I
truth
think
is,
yeah.
the truth is that conference of parties is still the only like well one yeah it's the conference of parties under the UN FCCC is like the only global climate framework that we
Mm-hmm.
have. So
Yeah,
if you want to have any global conversation about climate change, that's where it's happening. So it is still very
exactly.
relevant, very important. Yes, it can
Yeah.
be disappointing. I feel most people like I can imagine people, especially young people that have been going
Mm-hmm.
from when like imagine from the year 2000, and then you become a full grown adult, and you're
Mm-hmm.
seeing, yeah, it's easy to get disillusioned. So for someone like me who has never been there, I also feel like
Mm-hmm.
there's now a lot going on. So for example, COP 28 was actually the largest that they've had. They had over 85,000 people in attendance. Um and then the negotiations itself are happening is like closed off to most people that attend. I also
Oh,
find
really?
that so it's not like, oh, there's this huge place where like everybody's meeting and convening together. No, there's different. So they have different zones. They call them. So
Mm.
that like the green zone, the blue zone. I can't remember what other colors. And I was actually like I heard a presentation from someone in my lab group in school who had attended COP 28, but for waste. So they had a waste
Mm-hmm.
pavilion. There's also different things going on during the conference of parties as well. It's like there's private companies, NGOs also meeting together on different aspects of sustainable development, climate change, sustainability
Mm-hmm.
and climate change in general. Yeah. So there's
So
really a
yeah.
lot going on.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, me, I would definitely love to go and go for like the sessions of the parts that I'm interested in.
So you want to go for the,
Just
are you particularly going for COP 29 or just like a future
it's just
one?
a future. I don't know if I'm going. For,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going for COP 29, but I like to go, but I don't know if I'm going. But
Okay.
yeah, it's something I'll look towards going if I can get the funding. Because you need to be funded to go, right? Unless you have a lot of money. So someone listening to us, if you want to fund us, if you want to fund us there, you are ready.
When I get to attend a
Mm-hmm.
um, conference, I would be focusing on waste and fashion. There was
Yeah,
actually
that's it.
there were also some sustainable fashion gatherings and events that happened during this
Okay.
COP 28. So
I'm
that was
I'm
nice.
I'm really interested in energy, but like I'm open to learning more about the other aspects of like sustainability and environment as a whole. But like
Yeah.
my focus is like energy, waste energy, sustainable energy. So like that's something I'll be naturally drawn to.
Hmm.
But I'm also very open to learning more about like resilience and things like that and
Cool.
justice. Yeah.
Okay, so to round up, let's talk about just briefly talk about what we've been seeing around COP 29 and what the issues are.
I guess you talk about that because I've really not like gone into COP 29. So yeah, I
Okay,
don't know
yes.
much.
I sent one of the articles I found to you.
Mm-hmm.
So COP 29 is happening in Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan is also like a fossil fuel state, basically. Like all of their energy needs are they're dependent on fossil fuel. So first, people are like from Dubai straight to Azerbaijan. Ah, this is the end. Again, like this conference is really being hijacked by people in that are really
Mm.
currently supporting fossil fuel exploration. And also, when they chose the committee, so
Yeah, I know.
all
I
the
saw that one.
members from were at first all men, and yeah, that also
Mm.
created a lot of reactions online, which I agree with them. It's like, why we're in 2024? Like, was it just an oversight? What happened?
And to think that women are like, if you look at like gender, whatever, women are
Mm,
more affected, especially like
yes,
in
like climate
low
change.
income. Yeah.
Yes, yes, like they have the low income jobs. In most developing countries, they are the ones most affected by
Mm-hmm.
this issue. So why would you leave out women? And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
after the initial backlash, they added 12 women. So it's like 29 men, including the president of COP 29, plus 12 men. 12 women, rather.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's already set a precedence. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Did
scary
they make
stuff.
any comment about why they did that, or they just said it was an oversight? What did they make any comment?
I've not found
Mm.
anything about it. So
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah, so that already. I'm looking forward to COP 29. I'm
Okay.
not going, but I'm just looking. I'm
Yeah.
looking forward.
Wait, why you say you're not going? How about if you have the opportunity to go, you won't go? You're
Well,
not
if it's related
interested.
to my research, if it's related to my research, yeah, we'll see.
But
We
you
don't know
just
what they
said
put
that
up.
there are like different sessions there and
That's why I said,
there's
like, if the time permits and it's related to like
mm-hmm.
what I'm doing for my research, then I can go. You know me.
Oh, okay.
I'll be a second year PhD student by then.
Yeah, yeah,
There's
true,
a lot going on. We'll see.
true. Okay, guys. Yeah. Do you have anything more? Oh
No,
no.
I think that's it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I hope you guys learned a lot. I did. I did
And
learn.
if you have any comments or reactions, let us know. We'll
Yeah. Please
also
put it.
add links for you to read and references that we have talked about today
Yeah.
for you to do more study on if you want to.
If you think we said anything wrong, just let us know in the
Yeah.
comments. Yeah. And yeah, also let us know what type of topic we should cover in our future episodes. And yeah, until next time, see you.
Stay safe. Bye.
Bye. Thanks so much for listening to the Sustainability Nuggets podcast. I am Rarsu Maribi.
And I am Tosin Falarunshaw. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave a rating and review on wherever you listen to your podcast.
You can also show your support by signing up for a small donation to help sustain future episodes. You can find all relevant links in the description. See you in our next episode.